Now, on Tuesday, American voters will have the final say on which party controls the two houses of Congress for the next 2 years. CGTN's Nitza Soledad Perez has the latest on the U.S. midterm elections from Florida.
National polls indicate that Democrats have a good chance of taking the 23 seats they need for a majority in the House of Representatives. The same polls suggest that Republicans will retain control of the Senate. Interest has been unusually high for this non-presidential election. The midterm election is a referendum on President Trump and his governance. And Trump has been campaigning nonstop for his party, hammering his immigration message.
We have our military now on the border. And I noticed all that beautiful barbed wire going up today. It was barbed wire used properly can be a beautiful sight.
Democrats have used star power to build momentum and mobilize voters to the polls, with entertainment mogul Oprah Winfrey to former U.S. President Barack Obama on the campaign trail, rejecting Trump's anti-immigrant rhetoric.
The biggest threat is some impoverished refugees 1,000 miles away, on foot, got their babies with them.
Two governor races to watch in Florida and Georgia. The Democratic candidate Andrew Gillum faces off against Republican Ron DeSantis. Gillum could become the first African-American to win Florida's top job. In Georgia, Stacey Abrams is competing against Republican challenger Brian Kemp to be the nation's first black female governor. There's been a historic early voting turnout in the states of Texas and here in Florida. Nationwide, as of now, at least 34 million people have already voted in this 2018 election. That's 50% more than in 2014. If there's one thing we can say for sure about this season, it's that voters from both parties are very energized. Nitza, Soledad, Perez, CGTN, Miami.
And still focusing on those midterm elections, CGTN's Daniel Wrenches with the latest on these high-stake elections.
Well, Democrats have clearly been exasperated as they've seen this sort of radical Republican Party take control of both houses and have a very, from their point of view, a very bombastic president in power. So this is the first opportunity they've had to, in a sense, do something about it. And that's provided a lot of momentum to Democrats. And indeed, we've seen the number of early voters almost double from 2014 numbers in the midterm elections. So 34 million plus voters have cast their ballots. Of the rise in the number of early voters, the higher number is 56% to the Democrats. So you can see how they've been motivated. But at the same time, Donald Trump has seen what's been going on there, and he's decided to use immigration as the point to which he can energize his party. One of the potential downsides of that, though, is that people who live in suburban areas, women who are professionals, minorities, have seen this focus on immigration, and perhaps it doesn't ring true to them, and so it might actually motivate more of them to come up to the votes. Some aspects of potentially the Republicans losing control of the House are that there would be power in the hands of Democrats to really scrutinize the president's policies, to initiate new investigations of his relationship with Russia, for example, and also the House really has control of the purse strings. So it's unlikely, in terms of Africa in particular, that major budget cuts would be approved by the Democrats on things like HIV funding and other humanitarian aid. That being said, if Republicans did keep control of the House, then it's more likely that there would be massive slashing cuts of that sort of aid that's directed at Africa. But lastly, I think, if the Republicans lose control of the House, it's more likely that they will have less power to do domestic policy, because that's always going to be stifled in the House. However, the Democrats don't have an awful lot of control of foreign policy. That is usually traditionally in the hands of the president. And so it may be that he decides to do much more on foreign policy, and therefore world leaders could even be more concerned about a disruptive president causing more policy problems for them in the future.